Deputy Bishop Boyd Barrett. On behalf of the people before Profit Alliance Cancorla, and along with our colleagues in the United Left Alliance, we also will not be voting for Deputy Kenny as Taoiseach. And the reason why relates to a comment Deputy Martin made about the need to break from certain bad traditions in Irish politics. One of the worst traditions in politics, one that we seem to have a particular capacity for in this country, is the politics of saying one thing during an election campaign when you're looking for votes, and then doing something very, very different as soon as the votes are in the ballot box. And it seems to me that is precisely what has happened with this new programme for government. Deputy Kenny said that the EU-IMF deal was a bad deal for Ireland and it was a bad deal for Europe. And there was a very clear implication that something was going to be done about that we were going to stand up to those institutions who were trying to unload the cost of a financial crisis created by bankers and speculators onto the backs of ordinary people in this country, in a deal which will cause immense suffering for ordinary people in this country, but will also cripple our economy for years to come. That talk, that rhetoric of standing up and doing something about the IMF-EU deal has disappeared with a programme for government that is setting out clearly its intention to continue that programme of austerity, of cuts that was being implemented by the last government in the interests of paying off the bankers and bondholders at the behest of the EU and IMF. Another promise emblazoned on almost every Fine Gael poster was to get Ireland working. And yet in the programme for government, the plan to get Ireland working is met with one of the few specific commitments in the programme for government to slash 25,000 public sector jobs. You don't have to be an economic expert to realise you don't get Ireland working by 25,000 jobs being axed. It means 25,000 more people unemployed. It means less money being spent in the economy. It means more suffering. And I want to say that it is particularly depressing that the Labour Party are going to support Deputy Kenny, this government, and this programme for government. Labour, frankly, should be ashamed of themselves to sign up for a programme that is going to axe the jobs of 25,000 of the people who voted for them, very particularly voted for them in the hope and expectation that their jobs would be safe. They should be ashamed of the fact that on national television and on national media, when asked about the issue of water charges, they made solemn promises that they would not introduce water charges, and now they have signed up to a programme for government which is setting out to implement those very same water charges. They should be ashamed to sign up to a programme for government that is talking about selling off our state assets to pay off the bankers and bondholders and speculators. It is utterly shameful to sell the family silver, to asset strip this country in the name of paying off bankers and bondholders. Or what about the promise to do something about the universal social charge, which has savaged the incomes of low and middle income families in this country, losing hundreds of euros, with the result many of them will not meet their mortgage repayments, cannot pay the bills, and the promise that we would instead recalibrate the taxes so that those paying over 100,000 would see increased taxes. That has been abandoned too, and all we are told is there will be some kind of review. So for all those reasons, it is impossible to support this government or this programme that says one thing, gives all the promise, the hope, relates to the desperate desire for change that the people expressed during the election, and to abandon it for a programme for government which is simply a plan to do more of the same and cause such suffering to ordinary people, and I believe cripple our economy for years to come. But I'll finish on this point, Count Corla. Deputy Gilmore, I believe, said over the weekend that he feared that he would see forests of placards as he and Labour Party deputies. He feared. Well, he should fear. He should fear, and so should this government. So should this government. The pledge of the United Left Alliance. The pledge of the United Left Alliance is to support those groups in society who, through no fault of their own, are now being targeted with job losses, are now being targeted with brutal cuts that will put families under, that are being targeted with savage cuts to the public services on which they depend. That we will be facilitating, supporting and encouraging people to take up their placards and to, in a democratic way, resist this counterproductive, unjust and economically unsustainable programme for government that will do nothing to realise the hopes for change that people expressed in the election. And that is the pledge of the United Left Alliance over the coming period. Thank you, Count Corla.